Alrighty, Peoria QuadCon. How y'all doing out there? Excellent, excellent. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for coming to the panel. Thank you for supporting the vendors, the cosplay, all the people working this event. Thank you all. I'm Dr. Ed Wesselman. I'm a psychology professor at Illinois State University. I'm also a full-time nerd. And so I love to be able to talk to guests, to facilitate panel discussions. Our special guest today is Mark Dodson, voice actor, most known for Salacious Crumb in Return of the Jedi. Also did several of the Gremlins and Mogwai voices in the Gremlins films. Has done a lot of video game voice acting, so Bendy in the Dark Revival, which I know makes my son excited.
Oh, really? Oh, cool. Very good. Yeah. I'm, who am I? I always forget these things anymore. I do a lot. Nathan Arch.
Okay, excellent.
I take over, and I can talk about this.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I take over the studio.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and I thought it was funny when I got the part. For me, his name is Nathan Arch. And I was born and grew up in St. Louis with the Gateway Arch. Yep. I was like, oh, that's cool. I don't know, just the way my mind works.
So what I've got is I've got a few questions here that to sort of start things out. About halfway through, we'll open it up to the Q&A. But quickly, we're going to have to do the whole...
oh, yes. Yeah. I'm not allowed to say...
Star Wars.
Right? So when I go like this, everybody's going to yell.
Star Wars. Thank you.
Yeah. And, or the other one I can't say.
Gremlins.
So when I do this, everybody will yell.
Gremlins.
Gremlins. Thank you.
There you go.
All right. So we'll get through this together.
It'll be fun. As a...
Gremlins.
I like to be mischievous, so I like this a little bit.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right. So, Mark, tell me your voice acting origin story. How did you get into this?
Yeah. So it's growing up, like a lot of kids, I did a lot of impersonations of the people that I grew up on. Bela Lugosi, who I love. Boris Karloff. All the moves down in Greenville. Like Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, just north of Greenville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas. I would do that, and all the people that I grew up on, like you all grew up on the newer stuff, and probably your kids, and when you were kids, you did impersonations. And I used to be told I was pretty good at it, and then when I was 10 years old, I went to Disneyland, and when I went through the Haunted Mansion, and I heard Paul Frees, who is the voice of the Ghost Host. And I loved his voice. He did a lot of things back in those days, in the 60s and 70s. And he was Boris Badenoff, oh boy, Moose and Squirrel, and when I heard that voice, I was like, oh, now I can finally find out. And I asked one of the kids working when we got through there, do you know who the voice of the Ghost Host is? And they said, yeah, that's Paul Frees. And then they said, and he's Boris Badenoff. And here's a stretch for you. He was the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Wow.
So he had quite a range.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. And I was like, oh my God. And my uncle took my sister and I looked over at my uncle. I said, someday I want to do voices like that. So, it was just fun to me. But then I really decided, I took anything that, public speaking, I was fortunate I was in school when they came out with video, and they had video studio put into the school, and you could take TV production and anything that you could do. And I decided I want to be a director. And so I decided, yeah, I won't do voice, I want to be a director. So it's a long story, but we have time, I guess. So I grew up in St. Louis, graduated from high school, and went straight to LA that summer. And I was going to get in the film business, whatever it took. And I was like, I don't care if I empty trash cans, work in the mail, anything to get on the studio. And it was pretty public knowledge that back in those days, and I know it's not anymore, if you worked at a studio, like doing anything, in your off time, they would let you go out on the sets and on the back lot and hang out and watch if you wanted to do it. And then you could meet people and maybe get somebody to hire you on a production to be a production assistant. Well, I ended up getting with Lucasfilm and actually being a laborer. And I was like, okay, as soon as something gets, I can get into production. Well, then I would joke around at work, and then I became a carpenter, and put me in the union. I became an apprentice carpenter, and I was helping build Skywalker Ranch. And it got around, I would joke around that I could do voices. And they said, hey, why don't you come over and try out for some creatures? And I was like, okay. And I tried out, and I got the voice of Salacious Crumb. And then the guys that did, and I can say Salacious Crumb. Actually, I can say Return of the Jedi, because that was a non-union gig, and I've never been paid. I got paid for that one time. So they say we're striking on all these shows right now that we've been a part of. Because we want residuals from downloads and all the different platforms that they're on now that we don't get anything for. And so I said, well, guess what? I can talk about Return of the Jedi because that was non-union, and you're not paying me right now. You've never paid me again. I got one-time pay, and they've used that voice in toys and other TV. The TV show that they had the Kawaki Monkey Lizards, and. So they continue to use it, and I've always said that's the most $100 I ever made. Wow. Because that led to an entire career, and I'm still signing his name. So I'm cool with it. All right. So actually I can't say Return of the Jedi, I just can't say
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Right, exactly. So, and I'm in some of the other
Star Wars
things. Yeah. So I didn't say that. You said it.
And I will say
so that's how it happened. So the cool thing is, the guys that made Chris Wallace and Tony McVeigh made Salacious, and then they went over to work on
Gremlin.
And then they said, hey, these guys look a lot like him. Maybe we should have him do the voices for these guys. And it just started rolling. The next thing I knew, I was like, well, I still want to be a director, but while this is going, I'm going to go with it. Go the way the river flows. Don't fight the current. And so here I am now. I did direct a lot of radio for 15 years, morning show, comedy. Wrote and did that on the side, and produced for country radio. And I'm sure if y'all listen to country radio, you heard my stuff. Song parodies, commercial parodies. I would voice them. I would sing. I would in character. So I did get my fill, and that was daily stuff. 15 years of coming up with comedy.
Oh wow!
And we did it nationally. So a lot of the country morning shows, when you hear commercial parodies, song parodies, character bits, that was us, and I had a team, and what we would do is barter. So the morning shows would also do some of their own stuff as well, but we kind of supplement what they would do. And the way that worked is they traded advertising time for our comedy. And I did that for 15 years, and it's demanding coming up with something funny every day. It gets easier as you do it. It's a lot of parody on the news. So there's your subject right there. I think when we started, I think Bill Clinton was president, and we went all the way up until I guess George W. Through those presidencies, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So yeah,
man of million talents.
So that's a lot of origin there, and stuff that I don't usually talk about, because usually I'm talking about other things. So it's kind of fun for me, actually.
Excellent. So since we can talk about Jedi,
Yes.
what was it like to be part of that phenomenon, like in that first wave?
Yeah, it's surreal. It was surreal. I didn't do the character to picture. I did it what they call wild. I did about a half hour of sound, laughs, and emotions, and and then they found a good 15 seconds, and made it fit. Ben Burtt. So it was amazing when I went to the screening in San Francisco. to be sitting there, and I didn't even know yet what the creature was. And when he came up and cackled, I was like, and the person I was with, I said, "That's me." I knew right away. And then after the screening, there was a party and food, and not really nice. Obviously, Lucasfilm's pretty good, but it was really good to us. And Ben Burke came up and said, "Do you know who you were?" I said, "Oh yeah." He goes, "Yeah, that's who you were." It was surreal, And then that Christmas, that stuff was in every store.
Right.
I mean, everywhere when I went Christmas shopping, I'm seeing all this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a part of all of this. It's very surreal. It's gratifying. It's exciting. It's to this day, it's still surreal to me. I see it, and I go, I know that's me, but that's not me. It's really strange,
Yeah. I have other questions here too, but I want to make sure the audience gets a chance to ask you questions as well. Do we have any audience questions right now?
Questions? I know you have some questions for me.
Have you ever met any of the Star Wars cast?
Yes, many. And where I meet them a lot is at Comic-Cons and horror conventions. We all often say, we're in this movie together, we finally get to meet. We don't meet because I'm in post-production, they're in production. So voice people are, we're in after the fact, after they've shot everything. We'll see each other at screenings, the cast and crew screening. But that's over. There's so much going on, you really don't have to say, how you doing if you run into them. But yes, and you're probably wondering, like, Harrison, Mark, Carrie, they were all at out at Skywalker Ranch, there was a 4th of July picnic. And there used to be. And so met them all there. And they were very, walk up, hey, nice to meet you. The fun one, maybe that's a little better. You'd think I'd know how to use a microphone. The fun one was the Christmas party. Let's see if we can go into all this because, So the Christmas party, how when you go to a big function and the tables and names are on the table like a wedding where, and you go, oh, I wonder who I'm sitting with. So we went in, the person I was with, we go and I go, oh, who I'm sitting with. And I'm looking around and get to this table and I go, oh, here's my name. Oh my gosh, they've got me right next to Anthony Daniels. Like, what? I'm thinking, wow, So we sit down, we have dinner, and we get through dinner and they're bringing dessert. And I've become really good friends with a production assistant who went on to do great movies and produce some great movies like Twister, Speed, Saving Private Ryan, and his name is Ian Bryce. He did all the Transformer movies, produced all those. Well, we were good friends, and he's British, and he and Anthony were good friends. And Ian also is the same size as Anthony. So when they needed a C-3PO, he, for appearances, live stuff, Ian would play C-3POs on occasion. So he and Ian, and of course Ian was on the set of the films with Anthony. They were very good friends. And he was in charge of where people sat. So he put me right next to Anthony. Okay, so now that's set up. Now, we finished dinner. And I meet Mr. Daniels. Hi, Anthony, I'm Mark Dodson. He says, oh, hello, I'm Anthony Daniels. I'm like, of course, I know who you are. It was fun. He was very, very nice. We have dinner. Ian comes over as they're getting ready to serve dessert. And he says, Mark, Anthony, how's it going? And he's looking at us and I'm like, good, Ian. Oh. Anthony's like, oh, you know Ian. I'm like, oh yeah. He's like, oh yeah, we're good friends. And he stands there and goes, so Mark, did you tell Anthony who you are? And I said, yeah. I said, I'm Mark Dodson. And he said, well, no, did you tell him what you do? And I said, yeah, I'm a carpenter at Skywalker Ranch. And he's like, yeah. And he goes, no. Tell him what you did in the movie. I hadn't even thought about it. And for whatever reason, I'm more of a carpenter still. And I said, oh, yeah. I'm the voice of that little guy with Jabba the Hutt. So, like you wouldn't know who it was. Salacious Crumb. And Anthony looks at me, he goes, I hate you. And I went, it scared the hell out of me. I didn't expect that. I'm like, oh my God. He goes, oh, no. I don't hate you. I hate your character. And Ian just starts laughing his butt off. He had done that on purpose. It's like, oh my God, Salacious Crumb and C-3PO are having Christmas dinner together at the same table. And he was like, I was like, why? He said, well, I fought to have the scene where your character pulled my eye out because I don't feel that C-3PO should be defaced by such a creature. And it was like, I get it. Like if Darth Vader cut your head off, that would have been cool. Right. But not such a creature to pull his eye out. So that was the best when I met, and that's how I met Mr. Daniels. And then after that, he was like, and then he said, oh, no, I really like you. You're really quite nice. I was like, thank you. And Ian got it. And actually, it timed out good because Ian got to witness it. Right. When it got said. And he should have seen the look on his fucking Anthony's face. I mean, he was like in shock, like he couldn't believe he just. And we talked quite a bit during the dinner, you know. So yeah, thanks for that question. That was good.
When you were auditioning for the voices, did they give you a backstory of the character you might play?
No, not with this. So when I did that, I actually went in to audition for Admiral Akbar. And I was so nervous. There was nowhere to set the script. And Ben Bird gave me the script, and a page, and said, here's the lines. And it was the part where in Jedi, where the Death Star comes up as a hologram. And Admiral Akbar is telling them how they're going to go in and destroy the Death Star. It was kind of complicated. I mean, and I was so nervous, and I started shaking. And so bad, I said, oh my God. And Ben's like, what? And I said, I'm shaking so bad I can't read the script. And he goes, oh, don't worry, but take your time, relax, no big deal. And I remember thinking, no big deal to you. You work on all of these movies. It was a big deal to me. He said, just take your time. I said, can I walk over here and kind of get the nerves out? And he said, yeah, do whatever you got to do. So I walked away from the mic and I went over and I had the paper. I started going, and flailing and all, because it's nervous energy. And so I can't, and I stopped shaking. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready. And I come back over, I go, okay, I'm ready. And Ben goes, no, wait a minute. And he comes out from behind his podium that he had with all his knobs. And says, give me the script. And I thought, oh my God, I've just offended Ben Bird. I'm done. You'll never work in this town again. And he gets back behind, he looks at me, he says, you know what you did over there? I said, well, yeah, cackling. And he said, yeah, that is going to be perfect for one of my creatures, one of the creatures in the movie. Forget Admiral Akbar. We're just going to do a bunch of that today. Then I was like, okay. And so he described it. I remember him saying, I got this creature, he's part bird, part rat. That's how he described him. And let's just do that. And then he described, of course, they never want to tell you any part of the movie. It's always a secret. Unless you're in the scene, you don't know what's going on in the rest of the film. In fact, Mark didn't even know that Vader was his father. They did different lines in that to get reactions. And even when we screened it, and we all found out at the same time. And even the whole cast didn't know, and it was like, oh my God, we none of us knew it. So he described things like he started off wanting some sleep, like you're walking through the desert, you see a big castle up ahead, give me some sounds in that voice. And I said, and I just started, and he just described things to get different emotions out of me. And the scene where I attack C-3PO, what I'm actually saying is he described to me where I had stole this, there's a giant in this castle, I sneak into the castle, and I did all the sounds for that. And then he says, okay, now there's a giant sleeping, and there's some cheese on the table, climb up on the table, grab the cheese, and run. So I did that, you know, and then he says, oh, the giant just woke up, and he sees you, and you're scared. And so I screamed, and he says, okay, now the giant just grabbed you, and he's holding you, and he just took the cheese away from you. Give me in gibberish, just make it up, that you want that cheese back. So I went, okay, and I'm thinking in my head, and I went, and he goes, and here what I'm really thinking is, oh, there's kids here, but what I'm really thinking is, give me that freaking cheese back, is what I'm thinking. So that is where I go to the ceiling, and I've taken the eyeball. I just got zapped in the butt by R2-D2. And I'm actually yelling down at them, give me that frickin' cheese back, is what I'm really saying there. That's what I was thinking when I said it. But that's how he got different things out of me without me knowing anything about the scene I was going to be in.
I will never look at that scene the same way again.
No, I want my cheese. I want my cheese.
One question I like to ask in these situations is that there may be some aspiring voice actors in the audience. You know, so, what advice would you give to someone who wants to sort of aspire to that?
That if you really want to get into being a voice actor, it's way harder than when I got in it. There's way more competition. Back in the early 80s, when I would tell people I'm a voice actor, they'd be like, what's that? Now you tell people and everybody knows. So there's and the big actors started doing voiceover, where that was below them for a long time. And then all of a sudden they found out what we make, and we don't even have to get there early. We show up in a t-shirt, blue jeans, you know, we work 4 hours, 6 hours is the limit. We can't work more than 6 hours a day. While they're out there on set, you know, working, they get there early, they're out there 12, 14 hours. And so they started going, wait a minute, no, we might want to do that. So you got a lot more competition. Be aware of that. It really needs to be a passion. And you've really got to believe in yourself, because you're going to hear no when you audition a lot. In the beginning, you're going to hear no way more than you hear yes, and it'll hurt. But if you really believe in yourself and you know, then the other thing is, you know, you have to have as good an ear as a voice. So practice. You got to practice. So it's fortunate now where we used to have to go rent videos. Now you can just go on YouTube and look up any character that you want to impersonate. And you need to get a microphone, and you need to have we do a lot of stuff from our home studios now. We work out of our homes, and they'll direct us over Skype or Zoom, whatever they want to use. And it's, what was I saying? Record yourself, listen to the character. This is about having the ear. Listen to who you're doing, whether it's a Bugs Bunny or, you know, whatever you're playing. Do it, and then we like to say your playback button is your best friend. Play it back, listen, adjust, because you're going to listen and you're going to go, it's not really what I thought I sounded like, you know, at first. And then go, okay, where am I missing it? And, you know, there's everything that, not only the sound of the voice, but the cadence, the phrasing, you know, there's so many things. There might be a slight New York accent to it. All those things that go into a voice. And just listen and practice and beat yourself up. And go, I know I can do that better. And do it, and you have to feel how it's feeling, because it doesn't sound exactly like you think it does. So you'll get to where you start feeling it. And you need to be an actor. You need to take as much acting in high school, junior high school, acting classes, get with the local theater group, you know. And if you want to be in animation, you got to move to Los Angeles. You don't have a choice. And really, if you want to do anything, I mean, if you want to do anime, you can move to Dallas. A lot of that is done there. and I know a lot of the anime actors now live in Texas. You know, and then you got to put together a demo, and now we do the demos that we do. We used to do a demo of everything, 3.5 minutes of every kind of, you know, commercial voice, character voice. Now they want 1:20, no more than that, of characters. 1:20 of commercial reads, 1:20 of promo reads, and it's all very different. You know, trailers, narrations, 1:20 of all these things. Don't try to be everything to everybody. Do what you're best at. Because people always want to impress you with how many voices they can do. Yeah, you can do 50, but there's like 7 or 8 there that will get used. You know, don't. If you try to be everything, you'll be nothing. And like I do the dark characters. I gave up on being the hero real early in my career. At first I would try, and my agent would say, "Come on over, try for this," and I'd be like, "Okay." And then I realized really quickly, my voice just works for the evil, you know, the vampires and the Russian bad guys, and you know, and it's funny when I work with Russia. In Russia, they think that the Americans are the bad guys, and when we do video games here, it's always Russian or British or German. But yeah, when I've done stuff for Russia, they want you to just do your American accent. I think it's funny. But yeah, do what you're best at and focus on that, you know. And there's so much. I mean, like I just named all those different genres. You know, you might just be great at characters and that's all you do and you can make a living at it. But you got to move to LA to do that. Otherwise, commercial work, if you live in a big city, most big cities have agencies. Do your demo, contact the people, see if they want you to send it. You know, nowadays we used to send in the mail tape. But now we just email an MP3, and don't ever send an MP3 without asking them if they want it, because now you pissed them off and they'll know. Because, you know, they're sitting there getting their email and all of a sudden, what's this thing downloading? You know what I mean? It's a big file. So don't, you know, contact them first. Say, hey, I'm whoever, and I'm trying to get into voiceover, and I'd like to send you my demo. And they're usually very nice. And we'll say, sure, send it over. And now, thanks to technology, man, it's easy to go on Google and go advertising agencies near me, or in whatever town you're in Peoria, or Chicago's huge. Chicago isn't far, and Chicago is huge for advertising. They do a ton of advertising in Chicago. So yeah, that's a lot of it. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we are unfortunately about out of time.
Okay.
So Mark's table's in the back. Right?
I'm back there.
And do you have an online presence? Is there something that
yeah, I do, and something I can talk about. I'm doing a podcast for a company out of England. The company's name is Noiser, and it's called Detectives Don't Sleep. And I narrate the entire show. They're 45 minutes to an hour. People are loving them. So check that out. Just Google Detectives Don't Sleep. You can listen to it. It's all me, and then sound effects and music underneath. It's doing great. We're getting we're close to 100,000 downloads a week. So it's on every platform, and you can get it for free, or you can pay whatever I don't know how much it is to not hear the commercials. Otherwise, there's commercials in it. And so check that out. And then markdodson.com, if you want to go there, every picture that you'll see, click on it, and it'll be a video of, I've got some of my, you know, I haven't updated it in a few years, so there's no Bendy on there.
Okay.
But, yeah, and I did what else? And I can we can talk about video games, because we're not striking on that. So I did the Skywalker saga, the Lego, Salacious Crumb and that, and he tells jokes. And believe it or not, he speaks English. They're like, we don't know how this is going to work. Try it. So I did it, you know, in that voice, you know, and I'm telling bad jokes. Is what it is. It's pretty funny. It actually, after I did it, Matt Wood was directing, and when they came back on, because I was in a studio and he was in Skywalker, and then there was another producer in England and London, and when I did it, when they kicked back in, they were all laughing. So I'm like, okay, I guess it's working. They're like, oh yeah, that works great. We love it. So there's that. But markdodson.com is my website. It's got a little bit of everything that I do. And what else? Facebook, Mark Dodson. Right now I have a picture of Jimmy Hoffa.
All right.
It says, friend of Jimmy Hoffa's. For anybody that doesn't know, he started the Teamsters Union. And I'm a big union guy. I grew up in a Teamster home. My grandfather came from Italy, and my parents divorced. So I grew up in my grandfather's home. So I ate at a Teamsters table most of my childhood, and I heard it all. And so right now, yeah, it's got Soleil, it's got the Java scene, but then it's got friend of Jimmy Hoffa, but my picture. That's where you can find me. I mean, you can hear me on a lot of things. I do a lot of, I've done everything from I narrate for shows on Outdoor Channel. I do a lot of outdoor products. Voice of Remington Rifles and Ammunition forever. You hear me and don't know it, I'm sure. I did the one year I did the Olympics, the 2010 I did. And I got a call from my dad, or my son, and he was with a bunch of friends watching the Olympics. And he goes, Dad, did you do the Olympics this year? Is that you? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, it is. And my son goes, see, I told you guys. That's my dad. I told you. I know my dad's voice. Paul was like, yeah, good call, son. But yeah, that was fun. That felt good. Yeah. So yeah, that's. But I mean, that's. I don't know where else. I think I'm on. What's that other one? Not Facebook.
Twitter, Instagram.
Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah. It says it's OG Mark Dodson, and my kids gave me that. They said you're an OG, and I was like, original gangster. They said no, original Gremlins.
Ah.
Like,
I
oh,
love
cool.
that.
So it's OG Mark Dodson. That's
Excellent. Well, OG Mark Dodson,
okay.
Renaissance Man, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you all for joining.
Thanks, you guys, very much.
So, please enjoy
Come
the
on
rest of your
over and we'll talk about it. I just want to talk about it. All right.